Well, here we are. What you are about to watch has been one of, if not my most requested video series ever. This has been in the works for such a long time now that I've had no joke about dozens, if not hundreds of people over the years asking me to cover this very topic. With even people from my real life asking me to do this. With so many people asking me, hey Ray, can you cover this iceberg? Can you cover this iceberg? So I'm like, you know what? Fine, I'll do your freaking Hilda Iceberg video. If it means that I can save the Hilda fandom from collapsing like the RMS Titanic did. I will be using this Hilda Iceberg specifically from u/ballsballs, special thanks to him, as well as some of the other contributors on this iceberg. Just to be clear also, there are going to be certain topics in this iceberg that may seem controversial or sensitive to some people, with some outright needing to be taken out due to its contents. And for the purposes of this mini-series, myself, other writers, and narrators will do our best to remain as neutral as possible in covering certain topics. Are we cool with that? Great! So without any further ado, please enjoy the ultimate Hilda Iceberg. The very top. And naturally, this is where all the common knowledge stuff about Hilda is at as well. Virtually anyone who even is a little familiar with the show should be able to know this stuff by now. So we're mostly just gonna go through each of these as quickly as possible. Netflix's animated series. Very early on in the development of the animated series, Hilda creator Luke Pearson originally was making graphic novels based off the character, and mentioned that he had never seriously considered an animated adaptation of the books before, but that he did have a few ideas as to how that could possibly work. Some production companies did see some potential in it, but nothing ever really turned up from it. As early as 2014, however, Silvergate producer Kurt Mueller found Hilda Folk, the first book in the Hilda book series, at an indie store in Brooklyn, New York. He and other producers at the company loved it and wanted to bring it right onto the television screen. Later that year, Luke Pearson received a proposal for a Hilda animated series from the company through his mail.
Well, from my point of view, I just received a book in the post, which was a book that looked like one of the books that Hilda has in her satchel in Hilda and the Bird Parade, and it was like a real version of that book that had a Trollberg library card inside it.
Even coming with a little Trollberg library card and a small elf letter inside, as well as a wooden USB stick that contained the actual pitch. He really enjoyed this, and soon enough discussions began. With help from head writer Stephanie Simpson, Luke and Silvergate created a pitch bible that would be used to pitch the show to various networks, including companies such as Disney, Nickelodeon, CBBC, and Cartoon Network. According to Kurt Mueller though, they, quote, all passed for one reason or another. One of these networks would end up becoming interested in using the series in some way years later though, but that's a topic we'll discuss later. In the meantime, it wasn't until June 15, 2016, where The New Yorker announced that the series would finally be picked up by Netflix for a 12-episode season based on the first 4 books. And on February 25th, 2018, the show debuted its first 2 episodes at the New York International Children's Film Festival, with the full, now 13-episode season being released on the 21st of September that same year, and it has been history since. The show is now considered to be one of the best animated series that Netflix has to offer, with it having a 100% rating among 11 critics on Rotten Tomatoes and an 8.6 on IMDb, with many accolades soon to follow. Twig, Frida, David, Joanna, Alpha, and Tontu. 6 of the main characters we see in the show, along with Hilda herself. Twig has been Hilda's longtime best friend since she was tiny. David and Frida are 2 of Hilda's closest human friends. Johanna is a very beautiful excuse me, is Hilda's mother. Alfred Aldrich, once a resident of the Elven Counties, now lives with Hilda and Trollberg to document the various wacky adventures and mischief that occurs around humans, primarily in the city. And Tontu, well, he's just kind of a chill dude for the most part. I would say the last notable thing he did was stop a little giant dog from terrorizing the city. Scandinavian-based aesthetic. The show and subsequently Hilda as a whole is actually inspired by Scandinavian folklore that's actually been around longer than Hilda was first conceived. Aside from the folklore creatures on their own, the show's style and environment also is clearly inspired from the culture that is a part of Scandinavia as well.
I've always liked folktales and fairy tales, and like specifically the Scandinavian ones. I was reading up about like specifically Icelandic tales around the time that I was starting to do comics. When I got the chance to do a comic, and all these things like came together, and Hilda's world is like really strongly like influenced by all kinds of like Scandinavian folklore.
So think about that next time you visit the EU for whatever reason. Season 3. Hilda's Season 3 was first officially announced on September 14th, 2023, along with the announcement that its first 2 episodes of the third and final season would premiere at the Ottawa International Film Festival on the show's 5th anniversary. And on December 7th, the show made its third and final debut on Netflix with all 7 episodes plus a special releasing. Upon its premiere, the season received pretty mixed reactions from those in the community, with some saying that it is the show's best season yet thanks to its focus on rich storytelling and continuation, but others saying that it is easily the worst out of the entire show, even going as far as to say that the animated franchise should have just ended with the movie instead. Regardless on your opinions about it, it's clear that the season was going to be flawed from the very start, since around the time of the season's announcement. It was announced that it would only be receiving half of the episodes the show normally gets with each season, with Luke and director Andy Coyle clarifying this a little after its release. Trolls and their reaction to bells. Trolls in the show hate bells, and for a good reason too. Not just because they're annoying or anything, but as we saw in the Mountain King movie, they are loud. Really loud. So yeah, don't put bells on trolls or else you're a meanie and I want nothing to do with you. The Sparrow Scouts. The Sparrow Scouts is a scout club in Trollberg run by an unnamed Raven leader. The group formed more than 100 years ago, and their motto is essentially to be trustworthy, useful, and helpful to all types of people and creatures. They even have their own choir named the Warblers. Other than that, there isn't anything particularly unique about the scout club from the usual scout clubs a lot of kids have gone to already. Collect as many badges as you can get by tackling different tasks such as fundraising, first aid, and even wrestling, so that you can eventually be rewarded and applauded for your achievements at the end of the year badge ceremony. There's even a whole book dedicated to how you yourself can also be a Sparrow Scout, which was sadly discontinued sometime later. Still, I don't know exactly who would be interested in becoming a Sparrow Scout if you're not like 5 years old or whatever, but hey, maybe it's a fun idea. Who knows? Luke Pearson, the man, the legend, the creator of Hilda himself, Luke Pearson. Luke is not your typical showrunner like Dana Turris or Matt Braley. Luke is more of a stay quiet, do more with my creativity kind of guy when it comes to his work. So there just isn't a lot of information about his personal life out there, unfortunately. What we do know is that Luke was born on October 12, 1987 in Stockton-on-Tees in County Durham, England, but grew up primarily in Tamworth with his parents. In around 2004-2005, he created his first ever DeviantArt account, and his earliest illustration and I'm not even joking here. It's a Star Wars themed Weezer meme posted on December 1st, 2006. He went from making Weezer parodies to now having a critically acclaimed Netflix animated series of his own. Sometimes reality is just way more surprising than fiction. Aside from his Hilda works, Luke has also worked for a number of different companies and productions such as local magazines, No Brow, and of course, Weezer, maybe. I couldn't actually find information on whether he made this for them or not. His most notable contribution, however, is when it comes to Adventure Time. He has storyboarded several episodes during its 5th and 7th season, drawn the title cards for them, and even made some official art for the tie-in material as well. And he still does a lot of this kind of stuff today, which honestly, good for him. If I was Luke, I would most definitely get tired of having to draw Hilda this and Hilda that throughout the rest of my entire career. and that would definitely give me some kind of burnout to live with for the rest of my existence. So to see him add nothing Hilda related to all these is a very nice touch. However, if this was all that Luke just did, then he wouldn't exactly be someone who we would be even talking about in great detail right now. But that was all about to change when it came to his brand new
graphic novels. On November 14, 2010, Luke Pearson partnered up with the UK book brand No Brow to release Hilda Folk, now retitled as Hilda and the Troll Today, as part of their 17 by 23 project that is, quote, designed to help talented young graphic novelists tell their stories in a manageable and economic format. The hope is that while the series encourages artists to write one-off stories, 17 by 23 can act as a springboard for more ambitious projects, end quote. And ambitious Hilda certainly was. While we were unable to find any reviews floating around at this time, it is clear that Hilda was a hit with audiences, with even notable figures like Guillermo del Toro in 2015 saying that the series was, quote, plain smart and moving. John Stanley's Little Lulu meets Miyazaki, end quote. With reviews by the New York Times and the New Yorker more or less saying the same thing, Hilda was clearly the standout crowd in this 17 by 23 series, and therefore, 5 more graphic novels in the series would be published since, with a new spin-off one coming very soon. And of course, once the Netflix series came out, it only propelled the popularity of the franchise even further.
color palette.
Hilda is a masterclass in color. The daytime palette is filled with warm colors which are complemented by Hilda's cool blue hair. This contrast makes Hilda stand out in the wilderness environment. However, she blends in with the background more during nighttime because her palette is shifted from her base colors to relative blues and purples. Despite this, her values are kept the same in both settings to keep her easily recognizable. I think the nighttime color palette was most effectively used in Hilda and the Mountain King, where Hilda's similarity with her environment alludes to her being integrated into troll society and growing more distant to her mom and friends, feeling cold and isolated. There aren't a lot of gradients in the show, even in the sky, but when there is one, it's in the light bloom, which enhances magical effects and makes other important storytelling elements more eye-catching. Lastly, there's one notable exception to the warm colors during the daytime rule, and that is within the Fairy Isle, the setting of the last episode. This is a place that is deeply connected to Hilda's ancestry because it's the birthplace of her grandfather Finium and the childhood home of her mother Joanna, and that's why I think it has more of the red and blue hues that are characteristic of Hilda's palette. In conclusion, the show uses color as a narrative tool, serving as an example for artists and a topic of interest for the fans.
Trollberg and Trollberg's location, the land of the free, Hilda's home, and also a place where a giant troll just so happened to be sleeping right underneath it that nearly caused the entire city to go under because of this stupid, friendly safety patrol man named Eric Alberg. This city is going to crumble someday, you just know it. Wafts. Wafts are essentially big giant furry ball-like creatures that go up in the sky and essentially act like birds on steroids. Or as what sarcastic chorus quite simply called them, flying testicles. They are adorable as hell, and I even got a plush of it that sits right next to my desk. Wolves are most known for their signature light color fur, but as we've seen in season 2, they could also be white, or in season 3's case, naked. Just like birds, however, wasps are heavily reliant on coordinating their movements and sticking together when migrating, as even the slightest disturbance like abnormally loud noises can cause them to panic and disorient, causing them to fall down on the ground and even temporarily forget how to fly without assistance. We don't exactly know how much wasps have weighed before, but considering their size, I doubt having one of them fall on you would be a very good experience.
Hilda is a Gravity Falls clone. Many people, and I mean many people, drew comparisons between Gravity Falls and Hilda when the show first released. Even I did at the time. Most of the comparisons were done in good faith and not meant to undermine the true potential of the series. However, this is also a moment in time where you had just about anyone calling anything that even remotely or had anything to do with Gravity Falls a clone of it. However, though, as time passes by and people start to realize the differences the two shows have, though, it's safe to say that no one to this day in age is still seriously trying to make the claim that Hilda is a clone of anything anymore, or saying that it's the British version of Gravity Falls, as one certain video at the time said. That doesn't mean Hilda and Gravity Falls don't at least share some similarities, however. Plus, I mean, consider the following. When Luke Pearson made his earliest posts regarding the character that would eventually become Hilda, Alex Hirsch was still working at, I think, like Cartoon Network on Flapjack or whatever he was doing at the time before he'd even been pitched the opportunity to work at Disney and make Gravity Falls. So Hilda as a character is older in every single way than Gravity Falls is. So to say that Hilda is a clone of Gravity Falls just from the get-go is pretty dumb.
Hilda's old house was stomped by Jorgen. Rest in peace, old Hilda house. Your memories shall never be forgotten. The Elf Village's treaty with Hilda. Near the end of the Midnight Giant episode, the Elf King and Hilda both agreed to a peace treaty, stating that because she saved the king's life, she is now considered an ally of the elves. So this means that Hilda can finally stay in the wilderness now. Yay! Oh wait.
Woodman. You just know an episode is gonna slap when you see this guy come on screen. While Woodman doesn't appear too often in the series, he is definitely considered to be a fan favorite among many Hilda fans. He's mostly just a chill dude who likes to break into people's houses and relax and stuff, but honestly, the dude is just so chill that I would have no problem with him breaking into my house and cozying it up a little. Also, fun fact, he's actually one of the first Hilda characters that Luke has ever made, as evident from this DeviantArt pose he made all the way back on May 3rd, 2012. He was so new that he didn't even have a name yet.
The Deer Fox episode. To this day, most people consider this to be one of, if not, the best and most powerful episodes throughout the entire series. Think of that one SpongeBob episode where he has to look for Gary. Take that same concept but put it into Hilda and add some childhood stuff in between. Sounds really unremarkable on the surface, but the end result is one of the most emotional episodes throughout the entire series. This is the only specific episode from the show to receive more than one Annie Award. One for Best Animated Television / Broadcast Production for Children, and another for Outstanding Achievement for Editorial in an Animated Television / Broadcast Production. And is currently the highest rated episode on IMDb with a 9.7.
Kaisa is secretly a witch. There were a lot of theories that surfaced in the community when Season 1 first came out about how Kaisa, then dubbed as only the Librarian, was actually a witch. This is because in the Tide Mice episode, Hilda and Twig enter into a secret bunker that reveals a slew of magic books, including the one about the Tide Mice. And in the very next episode, which is The Ghost, Kaisa helps Hilda with raising the dead by giving her the necessary materials that she needs. Of course, now we know, ever since Season 2 came out, that the bunker in this library not only contains the magic books, but inside, an entire witch colony as well. One of those being Kaisa. So calling it a secret would be as misleading as saying that Rey never thought about making out with Hilda's mom before.
Hey! Well, it is kind of true though. Eric Alberg. Eric Alberg. Look, to give him some credit for a second here, at the very least, he is a much more funny and quirky character than Anders, although that is already a low bar to set. And most of his motivations and plans as an antagonist were executed pretty well, which in turn made Season 2 less boring than it could have been. With that being said though, he's far from being my favorite character personally. His whole personality is basically just about being the most delusional person ever up until Hilda literally snaps him back into reality, just to prevent an already crumbling city from, you know, not crumbling. The only other good thing I have to say about him is that at least he was in Season 3. Hilda is a kid's show. Hilda is technically a kid's show, yes. Its primary target is for kids, but that's not to say the show hasn't explored any mature-like themes before. We've seen it all, from violence to horror, obviously in a much less graphic way compared to an actual R-rated show, but Hilda as a whole was never meant to be a show just for kids, but rather something that everyone from all age groups could enjoy. And for the record, there is nothing wrong with enjoying these kinds of shows as an adult. If you're someone who's watching this and likes to make fun of people who are just genuinely passionate about their favorite kids show and did absolutely nothing wrong otherwise, do me a favor, click off this video and fuck off. That's the only F-bomb you'll hear in this entire video, by the way. Hilda and the Mountain King movie. Hilda and the Mountain King is an 85-minute TV film produced by the same guys who made the series, as well as with Giant Ant, and is meant to be a direct continuation of the show's second season finale, where Hilda and Baba somehow switch bodies, so that means Hilda somehow has to figure out how to change back in the movie. The way that Netflix rolled this movie out was really confusing for most, because instead of it being directly listed under the show's season 2 category, Netflix decided to make it its own separate entity instead, which makes sense, but when you consider the fact that this was especially an issue when season 3 released, as when people new to the series watch the show for the first time, they might immediately go from that season over to the third, despite the fact that there was a whole other cliffhanger at the end of season 2, and they'll be all like, bro, what the heck happened? Why is she normal and taller all of a sudden again? When in reality, they were supposed to watch the movie first and then season 3. Admittedly though, it is pretty funny to see this happen when it does. As for the movie itself, it was received with mostly positive reviews, with it having a 7.7 on IMDb and a 93% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Twig is very smart. As we saw in the Deer Fox episode, Twig isn't just your average everyday dumb orange cat that loves to attack people. Twig is very smart, especially because he is able to understand and bond humans extremely well. He's able to make his own independent decisions for the most part. He is loyal and mourns the losses he faces whenever those close around him face that predicament. Honestly, I wish I had a Deer Fox because they seem like better friend-making creatures than humans could ever be. And that is not an over-exaggeration. Season posters. Every season movie has had their own poster throughout the years. Season 1 had multiple posters, Season 2 had this poster primarily, the movie had this one, and Season 3 pretty much only had this as a poster. All great in their own way, and fun fact, Luke Pearson designed both the movie and the Season 3 poster by himself. Also, he designs most of the title cards that you see on the show as well. Nominations and awards. According to IMDb, Hilda, including both the show and the movie, has received 14 wins and 14 nominations in total. It has been particularly popular with both the Annie Awards and the Daytime Emmy Awards. The show itself received 8 Annie Award nominations, with it winning 7 of them, with it receiving 9 nominations by the Daytime Emmy Awards and winning 3 of them. It's no surprise that the show has received so many awards and nominations over the years, since it has consistently been able to exceed expectations season after season. Yeah, well, mostly. With it also giving us some of the best directing, editing, sound mixing, writing, and more. The critics have spoken, and they have said that Hilda is a pretty damn good show. Alfur's paperwork. Throughout the show's run, Alfur writes multiple reports on his experience in Trollberg, its people and general life in the city, to the elves back in the wilderness. He also often writes about Hilda, as the other elves are very interested in her and her frequent adventures in and out of Trollberg, because life has apparently become dull in the elf counties since Hilda and Johanna moved. As Alfur states in Season 1's Episode 5, The Troll Rock, it is never directly stated just how many reports Alfur has made, but it's safe to say that he writes them almost daily, as it is his job after all. Writing about day-to-day life in the city and the many adventures he and Hilda go on. He starts working on his first report at the end of Season 1's Episode 2, The Midnight Giant, where he puts down his first impressions on Trollberg and its civilians. Other known reports include the Troll Rock at school, discovering the Lost Clan, making contact with the Lindwyrm, and the Tide Mice spell, or curse if you will. The only ever time when Alfur's reports are a main topic is in Season 2's Episode 12, The Replacement, where Alvin is sent to Trollberg to replace Alfur, as it is believed that he has exaggerated or possibly even fabricated his papers on his time in the city, and that his work had garnered a quote-unquote fan base. Throughout the episode's run, Alfur proves that his reports are indeed 100% true, and he gets to stay in Trollberg, with Alvin, the Lost Clan, and the delegation as witnesses. During the episode, Adeline, a fan of Alfur and his work, also makes her own notes on her experience, which ultimately ends up with her and Alfur agreeing to co-author their report on the events. So basically they love each other now, although I kinda wish the show explored that more in Season 3. This costed me $80, by the way. This is a very expensive joke. I'm in my Hilda cosplay and I'm here to remind you that if you're enjoying this episode so far, please make sure to subscribe and like the video because we have put so much work into this. And I would gladly appreciate if you ended up supporting us in any way you can in order to make this series actually happen. It's you, the viewers, that support us and give us the energy to continue to do what we love to do, that any of this is even possible. And so all that I'm asking from here is that if you are enjoying this, please make sure to subscribe and like the video. I'm getting rid of this thing already. The Great Raven. Ah yes, probably the most underutilized and underappreciated Hilda character of all time. I may be a bit biased, only a little bit, but Raven is one of the best things that Hilda has ever gone. And I'm so mad that he didn't reappear as much as he should have been. They made like 5 different Nissa episodes throughout 3 seasons, and they couldn't have made another one about Raven? Discontinued gun merchandise. On September 26, 2019, the official Hilda account announced a brand new collab with toy company Gund, in which they were working on making Hilda plushies available to the public. And on September 12, 2020, the plushies were finally made available to the public. The items launched were a Twig, Hilda, and Wolf plushie, as well as a Twig pencil bag, Twig backpack clip, and Twig mittens, with a line of surprise toys releasing thereafter. These plushies were also given out to certain content creators to promote the show's upcoming 2nd season as well. I should know because I was actually one of those people who got one. Sadly, it was announced by the Mystery of GF account on Twitter on March 17, 2022 that Gund had discontinued their line of merchandise and would not be making any more products related to the show moving forward. Just under 2 years since the lineup was announced, making a lot of these products now incredibly rare to come by. It is unknown as to why these were discontinued, but the more likely reason probably has to do with low demand and sales. Which is pretty funny to think about when you consider how much and how quickly these things go out for sale on eBay every time they're listed. Maybe someday they'll get restocked. Maybe someday. Bella Ramsey. Isabella May Ramsey is an English actor. They are known for their breakout role as young noblewoman Lyanna Mormont on the HBO fantasy television series Game of Thrones, and Ellie in the HBO drama series The Last of Us. And not for Hilda, because that show is unfortunately not as cool as the others. Yeah, unless y'all have been living under a rock, you already know who Bella is. Like them or not, you cannot deny their impact on the shows that they've been in, including Hilda, which, again, I don't know why people don't already know this, but they voiced the main character herself. Hilda is taller in season 3. This is referring to how Hilda in the newest and final season of the show is noticeably taller and older compared to her younger self at the start of season 1. Although it is important to note that this isn't actually the first time we technically have seen Hilda older in the show. She is ever so slightly taller in season 2, as we can see by comparing them side by side. This was more than likely done so that way the animators had a better time at distinguishing the difference between teen Hilda and tween Hilda from the previous seasons, including getting rid of that skirt that she used to wear. Although her design has changed considerably less compared to the rest of the French trio. Cucumber sandwich. Hilda loves cucumber sandwiches. It is famous for it being her favorite snack of them all. More specifically, her mom's cucumber sandwiches.
Well, here are some cucumber sandwiches. I made enough for everyone.
My favorite. Thanks, Mum.
And you too can make them at home as well. Per Hilda's Sparrow Scout batch guide, you'll need 2 slices of bread, cucumber, butter, salt, and pepper, and a mom. Though that part is optional. Oh man. Firstly, spread butter all over 2 slices of bread. Second, chop thin circles of fresh cucumber and lay them out on the buttered bread. Thirdly, add a sprinkle of salt and pepper, then put the sandwich together, put it in a paper bag, ready for munching later, or whatever adventures sweeps you away today. It's that simple.
Oh my god. I don't like that. No. I don't like that. No, 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 no. What the hell did I just eat? Maybe I'm being a little too unfair. Maybe, let me take another bite. What the hell was that? I'm sorry. I know Luke Pearson is going to be watching this. Is going to be like, Ray, what the hell? You don't like cucumber sandwiches? I'm going to freaking fine you. I'm sorry, but that was just really ass. You know, maybe Blanya was actually cooking with that one Tumblr post they made about cucumber sandwiches in the show.
Fandom. The Hilda fandom is the community of, well, Hilda fans. Although it's considered especially smaller now compared to how it was in the show's earlier days, there are still hundreds if not thousands of fans around the world actively making either new fan projects, artwork, or new official content, whenever that comes. Baba. Baba is the daughter of Trilla, the big troll lady that turns Hilda into one at the end of season 2 as well as in the movie. There's nothing spectacularly interesting about her, nor is she all that important even in the movie. She just kinda causes trouble and says Baba a lot, which is to be given for a troll that's like a baby. Although it's important to note that both Trilla and Baba didn't first appear at the end of season 2. They actually appeared twice in both the Old Bells of Trollberg episode, where the bellkeeper kinda just disturbs the two playing, and the other is at around the 7-minute mark where they're hiding in a cave in the Yule Lads episode. The Maras. Another set of Hilda characters that ended up being non-existent in season 2 and the movie, although this one is a bit more understandable since I can see how they would be a little frightening and scary to kids that are slightly younger than the intended demographic. Still ashamed that the show did very little with them in general though. They did make a final return in the form of a cameo at the end of the series, but Kelly was notably absent, which was later rectified by Megan Ferguson as a non-canonical adaptation of an older Kelly. Jorts. Jorts is a fictional potato chip brand and company that is most famous for its shorts-shaped potato chips. According to Luke Pearson, he mentioned that Jorts are essentially like a version of Frazzles made for the Hilda universe. Personally, I never even heard of Frazzles until researching because I'm not British. I always assumed that they were just a kind of version of Sun Chips, but either way, I really wish these existed in real life because I am in need of a bag right now. Hilda and the Mountain King poster controversy. Oh boy, where do I start with this? Now, in case you don't know, when the Mountain King movie was first announced, some graphic designer behind the poster messed up. Big time. Why? Well, let's just say that some people looking at this poster definitely did not look at it and go, oh, that's a troll's nose and beard. No, 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 not at all. And what makes this even funnier is that Luke Pearson tweeted this out, only for him to immediately delete it after. You can't make this shit up.
The Bellkeeper is Hilda's father. Out of all the Hilda fan theories out there, this one is definitely the most famous. There's lots of reasons as to why this guy could be Hilda's dad, but by far the most concrete evidence comes down to him having a bit of hair coloring that could be seen as blue. And because Hilda has blue hair, that must mean this guy's definitely Hilda's father, right? Right? Yeah, well, we already know what happened with that.
2019 animation test shown in Berlin. Before the show on Netflix we see today, there was actually a lot of work that went into perfecting the show's art style. Several tests were created in order to test out the waters of how they feel the show should take direction in, and one of those tests was shown off at Pico Talks 2019. As you can see, there was definitely a lot that changed between this style and the show's more sketchbook-like style. It heavily leans a lot towards being in the style of the original graphic novels, and some do wonder how much better or worse it would have turned out of the show had it stayed in this exact same art style.
Animation errors. Like with virtually every animated show in the world, Hilda has plenty of errors that come with it as well. So here's a compilation of some of those mistakes.
Fan art where Hilda punches several female characters. Do we really have to talk about this? Look, I knew I would have to talk about this some way or another, but if you don't know what this entry is referring to, it refers to by far one of, if not the most infamous Hilda fan piece ever put out on the internet. And when I mean infamous, I mean like this shit was fucking everywhere on Twitter. You absolutely just could not escape it whatsoever. It was going to follow you around whether you liked it or not. Aside from the annoying aspect of the artwork, its origins are actually very interesting to go into. The earliest known date of this artwork dates back all the way to December 16th of 2020 on a 4chan thread that was allegedly deleted 30 minutes after it was created. Some of you may not know this, but this artwork was actually a parody of another artwork created for an issue of Batman Beyond 2.0. A very obscure thing to reference for sure, but what's even more strange is that to this very day, no one knows who made this artwork. No one knows who posted it, who drew it, and why they drew it. Well, maybe for the last part, it could probably be chalked down to them thinking that Hilda is the superior show out of all of these, which I 100% agree with, even if I am a little biased. Victoria Van Gale controls the Cloud Spirits. In Season 1, Episode 9, the reason why there is a whole storm going on is because Victoria decided to kidnap a baby cloud spirit to help her control the weather. And not only is that kind of messed up on all sorts of levels, but how did she even manage to get a baby cloud spirit in the first place? I'm telling you, this chick is crazy!
The Tide Mice. The Tide Mice made their debut in the first season and eventually had another episode about them in the second season as well. They can enchant a person to do better at certain activities, but after 30 days the enchanter will steal the enchantee's soul. In season 2, they played a significant role because Hilda somehow didn't fully disenchant the Tide Mice, so after going through some corporate hijinks, the day is saved and Hilda has learned her lesson not to mess with magic ever again.
Sword Hilda. Hilda with a sword. It's very cool. We first saw her with it in the Season 2 episode The Witch, in which she uses to cut through a bunch of living vegetables that look like the Dune Worm. And even though we don't see it too often in the show after this, it does make an Easter egg in the Mountain King movie where it could be seen in her room. I do wonder how she had to explain that to her. Mom, look what I got! Holy bejeebus, that was some team fish chips Hilda says gonna poke someone's eye out!
Joanna was stricter in the novels. In general, the writing in the earlier comics were a lot different compared to the writing we see in the show. Hilda's more moody and bratty, and Joanna was, as we mentioned, a lot stricter. In the end, most can agree that it was the right call to make these characters seem much more relaxed in the show, especially since it will make these characters a lot more lovable and relatable overall. When Joanna punishes Hilda for something in the show, you can tell that the punishment was well deserved for what Hilda did, and Joanna herself feels bad about it, instead of being 100% confident in her decision, because this was something that she never wanted to do. She is ultimately a great mother, and a much better written one than her exaggerated self in the novels.
Where are the other giants besides Georgian and his wife? In Season 1, Episode 2, the Woodman is explaining to Hilda how giants on Earth have existed before, and that Georgian and his wife were possibly the only ones in the world to roam it for centuries. Everyone had to leave their home because more humans were taking over, but where they went is still a complete mystery. We know that they jumped right into the big atmosphere of space, but no one knows where they went. Possibly another planet, another universe, or just making themselves comfortable in space. Or maybe they could still be on Earth somehow, hiding out from the humans.
Hilda Creatures. Hilda Creatures refers to a now defunct mobile game created by Bigu Maku, which is now defunct also, but more on that later. The game launched on October 18th, 2018, around the same time as the show first premiered, and was even active long enough to receive some new updates by the time Season 2 released. Now me personally, I was not the biggest fan of Hilda Creatures because at the end of the day, it was extremely repetitive in my opinion. It was pretty much like one of those games where you had to wait all day for stuff to happen. Hey you, water this plant. Hey you, feed this wolf. Hey you, play a card game against Hilda. Or, well, actually, that was one of the best things that came out of Hilda Creatures. And at first, it was fun, but then after a while, it just started to get really boring. I can understand why some people would have a better time with this than I do, especially since it's the only official Hilda video game that's ever existed. And so if that's you, good for you. I wish I could enjoy it more than most people do. However, it seems like I am not the only one in thinking that, because the game in general did not receive consistent enough updates to keep players engaged. And as a result, the game ended up leaving the App Store in March of 2022. Although that was less of the fault of the people not playing Hilda Creatures and more of the company behind it going through some pretty rocky stuff.
Hilda is a witch theory. Another popular Hilda theory back in the day was that Hilda herself was possibly a witch. In the Tide Mice episode, we see that the spell she uses to cast on her mom and David is one that, according to the book that they read, a witch must be able to cast. And so, from then on, several theories had surfaced on Hilda possibly being connected to magic, including videos made by Channel Frederator. And while the theory that Hilda has some sort of magical abilities is sort of true, as shown in the events that happened in Season 3, it was mostly debunked in the Season 2 episode, The Witch, when one of the chairwomen of the Witch's Tower clarified that just because Hilda managed to do a witch's spell does not automatically make her a witch, but rather that a witch is cultivated through years of study and practice. Though it is kind of intriguing that they mention Hilda being Frida's familiar once, and then never again for the rest of the show.
How did Joanna get basic resources while living in the wilderness? We're assuming this means how exactly was Joanna able to prepare so much to a point where she and Hilda were just able to leave and move into Trollberg literally the same day as Jorgen stomped their whole house down. The reasoning for that could be pretty simple. In the Bird Parade episode, we learned that Joanna as a kid actually grew up in the Trollberg for some time. So maybe she already had a way with the city for a while and just visited there every now and then to get some food and work done. As for school, it's most likely that at least some homeschooling was done for Hilda. It is strange how literally they had to live in a house miles apart from another city, or at least until we learned more about it in the final episode. Maybe rent was too high? Who knows?
Dragon Panic. This refers to a fictional board game that was made in the Hilda universe. No one really knows how Dragon Panic is supposed to be played, but from what we can see in the show and some theories have thrown out there, it seems to be taking heavy inspiration from Settlers of Catan.
Zelda. Zelda is a Zelda Hilda parody animation created by the YouTube animation channel Mashed. Unfortunately, we cannot show the full thing or else this video will get copyright claimed, but you should definitely check it out for yourself soon as it's extremely well made. It could also be a play on Princess Hilda, who is the secondary antagonist of the Nintendo 3DS game Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds.
How to Draw Trolls tutorial. This refers to a post made by the official Hilda account where they give a detailed guide created by Luke Pearson to encourage those to draw trolls. This was then followed up by another post in which they encouraged people to draw trolls, and in return, they would repost them onto their account for all of their followers to see. It's most likely that these were inspired by Luke Pearson's previous work, How to Draw Birds, published back in 2012, with some even seeing it as a sequel of sorts.
The Nowhere Space. The Nowhere Space, the place where all Nissa originate from, the deep void that consists of pink stuff and lots of holes. Get your mind out of the gutter. And accessing it is about as simple as going into the inner corner of a sofa or floor or whatever, or at least it's simple for a Nissa. The biggest plot twist of the Nowhere Space is that all this time, Victoria was completely right in wanting to explore this place, as without her help, Hilda and Joanna would not have ever been able to discover the Fairy Isle and find out all about the past of her family that was kept so secretive from us all this time. So in the end, yeah, she does kind of redeem herself.
Hilda is adopted. One of the theories that surfaced about Hilda's father back in the day was that because Hilda had natural blue hair, and usually blue hair isn't something that's genetically common, that means that Hilda must have been adopted from some other family, or could not even be human altogether. The latter of which turned out to be partially true. Although genetics in Hilda have always been a bit of a weird topic, especially after the Fairy Isle episode. Genetics would have us wanting to believe that blue and white hair doesn't exactly mix into the brown hair that Joanna has, right? Well, not exactly. It all has to do with how genetic inheritance in hair works. So let's assume that Phineam and Lydia both got their blue and white hair color respectively as a result of dominant genes from their parents. So for Joanna to have existed in this world, it is reasonable to think that she could carry either blue or white as the dominant hair color. But hold on, because let's also assume that because Phineam is a fairy species and therefore most, if not all fairies carry this same blue hair, that must mean that at least one of Lydia's parents must have carried some form of brown hair. And because at least one of them carried that brown hair gene, that in turn led to Lydia carrying carrying that as a recessive gene when she was born, which then led to Joanna carrying that as a dominant gene when she was born. So, in short, the reason that Hilda carries the blue hair but her mother and father do not is because Joanna carried the blue hair as a recessive gene as a result of her father Phineum. We could go into more detail about this, but for the purposes of this segment, this is about as best as we can put it.
Trundle's goal. Trundle in the Mountain King movie wanted for trolls to rise up in rebellion against humans and start a whole troll army as the literal Mountain King. And because of that, the whole city nearly collapsed, and in the end, his plan fails anyway since he dies. Womp womp. The intros show events of a determined season. This one blew my mind. So many people out there didn't actually realize this until they went ahead and rewatched these intros, possibly frame by frame. It shows literally everything that's pretty much gonna happen in the season, including some pretty spoilerish plot points that could have been hinted at something big if you actually paid attention to these. Like I said, I would say my mind is blown, but also this kind of feels like something that most people should have known by now because it literally shows you everything on the actual intros. HildaTheSeries.fandom.com. This entry is talking about the fan wiki based on all things Hilda, like pretty much most fandom wikis you see nowadays. Moving on.
Frida is Amara. In season 1, the Nisei and the Black Hound episode, in which Frida is now suddenly hanging out with Amara, and so she becomes like one of them.
Okay, first off, I'm really sorry for interrupting this, but I just noticed an error while editing this part, and so I just want to rectify that. I wasn't really paying attention to this part as much as I should, so the first sentence just started off really awkwardly. What I meant for Tate to say was, in season 1, the Nisei and the Black Hound episode, Frida is seen hanging out with Amara, and so she kind of becomes like one of them. So sorry, a bit of a grammatical error in there, but I hope this makes it seem more sense.
What's really interesting is that in this shot here in the Nisei, while Frida and the Mara are at the bonfire, they start this whole ritual which they give out Mara juice, and Frida becomes part of that very shortly before getting out of it. Now, how did this happen exactly? Is this a sign that she is possibly tied to them in some way? We don't know, and honestly it seems unlikely we ever find out an answer to that. It's still strange that it ever even happened at all.
Hilda is on puberty. Aside from her getting noticeably older and taller throughout the series, I think something that not a lot of people have talked about is her voice. Comparing her from the first ever episode to then her in season 3, there is a big difference in terms of tone of her voice. She sounded very much like a little girl before to now like an older teen, which I guess fits well with her canon age in season 3, even though it's only a 2-year age gap, and of course how Bella Ramsey themselves have grown up over the years. It's something that most people watching the show really like about, since it's at least a nice effort to have her and the other characters in the show feel as real and alive to the audience as much as possible.
Uniforms. Hilda wears several different outfits throughout the show. Let's go through some of her most iconic ones. Starting off, of course, with her most famous outfit, the classic beret, red sweater, yellow scarf, blue skirt, black leggings, and big red boots. This design just screams childhood, excitement, and of course adventure, and it has been the most frequent outfit seen in the show, apart from when she no longer wears a skirt in season 3. Then we've got her Sparrow Scout uniform, which looks like a Cub Scout uniform, and is actually the only uniform that Hilda wears a different beret with. Then there's Hilda's school uniform, which is just a collared shirt, sweater, and skirt, pretty average. And finally, there's Hilda's pajamas.
Luke Pearson's cameos. Believe it or not, Luke Pearson actually makes several cameos throughout the show, his most notable one being in the Tide Mice episode, where he runs into Joanna and Hilda and says this.
There's a spill in R7. It's sticky and it's spreading. That's all I know.
Yup. That is actually Luke's voice right there. And apparently, I guess the animators loved this cameo so much that they decided to include him as a background character in several episodes and in the movie since.
Newer novels. By the time of this video's release, there will most likely have been launched a brand new Hilda spin-off graphic novel made by Luke Pearson, called Hilda and Twig Hide from the Rain. According to Luke, the idea for this book came from watching my young daughter interact with my Hilda comics, and wanting to make something that could be read more easily in one sitting, essentially a better bedtime book. In a lot of ways, this is me revisiting the vibe and the world of the first book, but with the skills I've picked up in the 14 or so years since. Aside from the book being easier for young readers to go through, the book is also notable for having this more relaxed and simple feel to it, rather than the cartoony, more artistic style feel that is seen throughout the main series. Are you planning to pick up this book?
Also, since I started to edit this part of the video, there's actually been rumors of another spin-off book coming called Hilda and Twig Wake the Iceman. If this is actually real, this could imply that we may not be having just one spin-off book, but potentially a whole new series of spin-off books. Which, for a Netflix series that ended a year ago and had its popularity peak much longer than that, is really impressive and exciting to see that Luke isn't quite done with Hilda for some time to come. Also, Luke, I know this isn't the final cover, but come on, man, that is not an Iceman, you know this. Like, at that point, just replace him with like Vanilla Ice or something. Why wasn't a trio sentence after dropping the bell on season 2 episode 6? I'm honestly really glad this entry is on here because this is actually a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for some time now. You mean to make me think that these kids can literally get away with hundreds of thousands of dollars of property damage on government and private property and not even get in trouble for it once? What kind of messed up police system does this city have? And somehow no one even ended up getting in trouble for it. Or did they? Here's my theory. The reason why we see the Bellkeeper just mysteriously disappear from nowhere after seeing Hilda is because the Bellkeeper was subsequently arrested and charged on conspiring to play around with Safety Patrol's Bell plan. And the reason why we hadn't seen him in the rest of the season and the movie is because he spent his time in jail for his crimes, since he's the only one who probably ever got caught. Although maybe that sentence was short-lived because we ended up seeing him anyway in season 3. Still though, how the hell did they get away with this? See, if this was America, Hilda would be at the top of the FBI's most wanted list right now. Vikings are canon. That's right, Vikings are canon. And you can find them in the earlier parts of this episode, although they aren't particularly my favorite characters in the world, nor are they even all that memorable to begin with, but hey, they made up for it by making David funny, I guess. Frida's negligent parents. If we had to guess what this meant, it probably has to do with something with the fact that we just rarely ever see Frida's parents in any capacity whatsoever. Which is weird because even with David, we do see his parents a lot throughout the series, so why don't we see Frida's come up more often? I mean, they do exist, but do they even know that their kid is a witch? We don't know. And yeah, for all we know, Frida's parents could just be shit at parenting, who knows. Unofficial 2013 Asian figurine. Sadly, we could not find any strong evidence of this even existing, but we do know that there was an official Hilda figurine that came out by Flying Eye Books in around this time. Jesus, that voice cracked. So most likely this was just some sort of confusion done on Ball's part in the making of this iceberg list. The front features a top and bottom design with the name Hilda on top, with the figurine being seen inside the box itself. The sides, top, and bottom all feature designs inspired by the original graphic novels. Although the back of it is especially interesting. It features a whole mini comic designed by Luke Pearson himself, and it essentially explains what you could do with it. The figure itself is really well designed and well built. And I just found out about this the other day as well. You can even tilt her legs, which is kind of crazy now that I'm just finding out about this. Unfortunately, unless you have it kept in its box for most of the time that you have it, they tend to break really easily if you're not careful enough. And trust me, you do not want to break something as valuable as this.
Runaway AU. No, this is not Kanye's own Hilda alternate universe. It's an AU created by Picablo. The main concept of this AU is that the plot diverts from the Stone Forest, where instead of Johanna stopping Hilda from traveling to Frida's through nowhere space, she succeeds. Though when she comes back to the flat, both her and Johanna get into an argument, which results in Hilda thinking that her mom doesn't want her anymore, so she leaves Trollberg with Twig. This results in a myriad of different divergences from main canon, with Johanna becoming head of Safety Patrol in her search for Hilda, developing a relationship with Gerda, Eric being fired from the patrol after a fight with Gryla ends up in the destruction of the Sun Stencil tree, and Frida being adopted by Tildy and Mr. Ostenfield after being disowned by her parents for being a witch. Yeah, that's quite a bit. You can check out her Tumblr or Archive of Our Own page to see the rest of what she's put out. They're apparently considered some of the best in the Hilda fanfic community.
Super Hilda and Zelda fan games. Okay, this is kind of cheating a little because this entry is actually a little more below this tier, but due to the high likelihood of some of the new information presented in here being leaked, we just had to talk about this before anyone else can. Super Hilda and Legend of Zelda were both a collection of Hilda fan games created by the Mercury Filmworks team for a fundraising live stream that took place on April 4th, 2020. Yes, this is actually real. These were real games created by the Hilda team, specifically Scott Lewis. However, I can't say they're official either because it's technically not. While these games are obviously just reskinned versions of the original Super Mario Bros. And Legend of Zelda, and are not very long or hard to beat, I found while playing them that they are surprisingly fun to play and extremely faithful to the original source material. Coins are replaced with bells, the twig power-up gives you a deer fox suit, the old man Zelda is the wood man. There are a lot of great fun and neat touches to it that you normally wouldn't expect in a fan game like this. Some have even loved it so much that they even decided to create fan art for it. Now, this is where I would have been fine with just ending this section right here and there, but as it just so turns out, I managed to speak with the Scott Lewis himself and decided to ask him a whole bunch of questions relating to these games and his experience with Hilda at Mercury Filmworks. Exclusively for this video. You're welcome. Who else was involved in making those fan games besides yourself?
I didn't make them with anyone else actually. I just enjoyed tinkering with Game Maker Studio. I made the first Mario-like game in basically one weekend.
Is there a way that the general public could download and play them on their own time?
I'm so bad at putting stuff on the internet. Feel free to put it on a file sharing program and share them with people.
What were your inspirations for coming up with the ideas for them in the first place, besides obviously Mario and Zelda?
The SNES was the golden era of games for me growing up. Those games have a big place in my mind. In a way, I sometimes make games like other artists like to doodle in a sketchbook. I've had funny conversations with people and then gone home and made a game about it that evening. I should probably start sharing more of what I do online. It's encouraging if some people find my little for fun projects entertaining.
What has been your experience with Hilda as an animator?
Hilda was a very fun show to animate on. Unlike a lot of better cartoons that get made, Mercury got to develop a lot of the show in-house, as opposed to seeing all the creative work getting done in Burbank, California. So that meant we had a lot more freedom as animators to throw our own ideas in. I could just poke my head into the director's office and toss an idea at Megan and Andy and see if they liked it. Usually animators don't get to make any choices at all and just follow pre-made guides to do everything, at least in my experience. By the way, to clarify the point about better cartoons, I meant it felt very lucky to work on a show that was both great and we had freedom. It felt like the planets aligned to me.
That's all the questions I had for him, and thank you so much, Scott Lewis, for letting me interview you. And that's it, guys. That's the video. Or is it? Because if you thought that those two games were the only Hilda fan games that Scott made, then you would be dead wrong. Because as it turns out, there has been a third Hilda fan game out there that he created initially for the Season 3 team only, called Mega Hilda. A Hilda-themed Mega Man game. And because this game has literally never surfaced outside of those people, let me just show you what it looks like instead of just babbling about it for too long. Yo, that's sick! We have our weapon here, we got our lives, we got our... Oh, okay, so... I have a bunch of options. I haven't actually played a Mega Man game, so it's a little confusing for me. This is some really smooth animation. Oh, wow. It really does feel like Mega Man. Ow! What the heck? How do I get down there? No! Oh my god. You know what? I'm just not gonna question it. Oh. Really? Maybe I'm just dumb. I'm having a hard time for no reason. No! No! This game. I don't know how to play Megamind. I'm sorry. Did I say Megamind? Maybe I should have used a gamepad, because this is This is tough. Overall, gameplay-wise though, it's actually pretty good. I'm having a lot of fun playing this, honestly. It really is a lot of fun. Ah! Even if it is a bit challenging, but hey, I guess that's what kind of makes a video game, huh? No! Okay, well that's just not fair. No! What the hell is this? Wow, that took forever. No! Oh my goodness, we're gonna be here for a while. Back here. Are you flippin'? I don't like Mega Hilda. No, no. I just want to kill you. Dude, it's so difficult. Oh, what? I literally had him. Why doesn't it make me do that? I hate this game. I hate this game. I hate this stupid game. How? What? Oh, so. How am I supposed to get through those? No! Just let me get over. Oh, we gotta go through that again! How are you supposed to avoid those things? No, we are not about to do this again. No! Oh, no! I had so much fun playing this. If you want to watch me play through the whole thing, I'll have it available on my ReyGGTV Productions channel that is available to watch right now. But if all you want to do is just download it and play for yourself, well, I'm excited to announce that with the permission of Scott, for the first time ever, you can. Just join my Discord server, find the links channel, and you'll be able to download and play it to your heart's content. Absolutely free. Windows only though, so sorry to all those Mac and Linux users. If you thought this iceberg list wasn't going to include any surprises, well, now you know you were wrong all along. And there's a lot more that came from, but we'll just have to save that on the next episode of The Ultimate Hilda Iceberg. Hi, so this is probably not the best way to relay some of this information I'm about to say, but are you a content creator? Are you a YouTuber or just any other Hilda fan out there? Well, I'm currently looking for some artists and voice actors or YouTubers or narrators in general, people who narrate videos in general. I am looking for some of those people to make episode 2 of my series. Now, as of right now, episode 2 has still not been officially greenlit, but it all depends on how well this video is going to do. And so if this video does well enough to the point where I can actually go ahead and make an episode 2, well, I got some good news for you. If you want to contribute to that, if you want to voice act, if you want to be like any of these narrators that you saw in this video, join my Discord server, and there will be a survey or application link to it that you can sign up for, and I'll make sure to reach out to you if I'm interested. All right, I just wanted to get some of that information out. Thank you so much again. I know this isn't probably the best way to talk about this, but yeah, thank you so much for tuning into this very special episode. I'll see you guys in the next episode.